today's review, Robinson the Journey from Crytek. So what is Robinson the Journey? Well, it is a VR game, and pretty much it is The Martian meets Jurassic Park. And what I mean by that is the entire premise is you're a teenage boy who was born on a very large, what looks like a more advanced looking space station, and you've left Earth and you're trying to colonize an entirely new planet that is almost identical to Earth. And the difference between Earth and this planet is that in this stage in the planet's lifespan, you have what's pretty much what we had here with dinosaurs. It's pretty much what it is. And you have to survive on this planet because you're stranded and you don't know if there are any other survivors out there or anything. Just got a text. So sorry about that. But in any case, so that's pretty much what's going on in the Robinson the Journey. And you have your little AI companion who is referred to as Higgs. And that's just the nickname the kid comes up with because in reality he's a Higgs unit, which the Higgs units in this game have very different set of roles. They're kind of like the droids in Star Wars, where there's a droid that does repair work, there's a droid that does navigation, all sorts of stuff. And as you go about these different areas within this world, you're going to go ahead and look for these Higgs units in order to piece together what exactly happened as to why your big space station crashed onto this planet, and see if maybe you can find other planets. So that's pretty much the entire encompassing story in the game, and you have at least about 4 to 5 different areas that you need to explore and repair. So like in one area is your farm, the other is the tar pits, another is your like tree house. The last place is a thicket of jungle, and the very last area is kind of almost the heart of the internet of this little international space station type ship that you come from. And along the way, you can find little wrist smartwatches that have some bits of data. Everything's a collectible in this game by means of you having to scan the environment using your scanner function, and you need to collect these little green nodes that appear on the animals and creatures. And if you can scan enough of those, you'll have enough information to kind of catalog information. And so your Higgs unit will periodically tell you that it's been collected, and if you collect enough creatures as you're scanning, they'll start saying that you're becoming a cartographer or whatever guy, or naturalist, which is funny because that's all he continuously keeps repeating to you every single time. Movement in this game's a little interesting. You move up using the left joystick, and there's not a whole lot of buttons in this game, which is actually kind of nice. You look around using your VR headset, similar to the dynamic mode in Res Infinite for PlayStation VR, and you walk around using the left joystick, and then you can rotate yourself very quickly by using the right joystick. Now that's where things can get a little tricky because there is heavy physics going on because it's still using the CryEngine from Crytek, since this is a Crytek video game. If you do that while you're holding something that's in a bowl, like when you try to do like one of the side quests like fishing, you can easily fling your bait or the fish that's in your bowl if you're not careful. But overall, the controls are pretty straightforward. At least personally, when I played, no issues using those controls. Within the first 5 minutes, you get a little weird sense of motion sickness, just because you are moving forward, but you're probably not used to it. It's not that kind of movement that you're used to with the VR headset, but you get used to it very quickly. And it's very intuitive in how, when you get to certain areas in the map, there's edges that are highlighted in orange, and that's basically where it allows you to climb. You use a left and right triggers, or L2 and R2, to climb up. And as you look, you'll see your hands float forward and you'll grab them. And that's where you can climb up to certain areas and levels in the map, as well as climb down. And this becomes key in various areas, especially in the jungle portion of the game. Graphics-wise, the game is pretty good. I wouldn't say it's like super stellar, but for a PlayStation VR game, it actually looks really good because they are using the CryEngine. Some textures still tend to pop in with extra little detail here and there depending on how close you're looking at it. I was using the PlayStation 4 Pro when I played this game, and so I really can't say how much less or more I was getting when using the original PlayStation 4 and then using the PS4 Pro. You'll have to look up and see or request that Digital Foundry, those guys at Eurogamer.net, the Digital Foundry team on YouTube. Send them a message if you want them to make a comparison video, as they've been doing that for a lot of games that are out right now. They don't really use VR. I'll eventually put us a quick video on what's the performance difference using Rez, using PlayStation VR on the Pro, since the creators of Rez announced that there was some overall enhancements when using the PlayStation VR Pro with the PS4 Pro. I'm sorry, not the VR Pro. There's no such thing as a PlayStation VR Pro. That would be a big kick in PlayStation fanboys' nuts if there was an alternate version of the VR that's even more powerful than this guy. Oh God. Anyway, I did have overall enjoyment with this game. I only have a few complaints. One is there doesn't seem to be a way to quickly travel through the game efficiently. You have to walk around, and because of motion sickness concerns, they kind of limit how fast you can move around, and that's what can get a little annoying. And your map that you have in this game to kind of help you navigate where you need to go is garbage. It's a big top view overhead map, very simple, with the little pin that you would see like on your iPhone or your Android phone on Google Maps. That's all it gives you. So if you're really trying to figure out how to navigate detailed area, how to get from A to B, because after a while certain areas like the tar pits and even like the jungle can start looking all the same. If you're not careful, you can end up going in a loop or going back the way you came and not realize that that's not the way to leave. Because on the map, it poorly tells you if you really are going in the right direction or not. Certain areas, your Higgs unit will like light his blue light and tell you where you need to be. And that's going to help you. Or he'll say, oh, I can solve this puzzle. And that's where he'll kind of give you the hint of what you need to do in order to get things moving if it picks up that you're kind of lost or not progressing forward in this next key area. And that's pretty much all there is to it. The game is pretty fun. It is, I want to say, a bit steep at $60 for a VR game. That's really, I knocked it out in 2 days with playing it straight for a good 3 to 4 hour instances. So I guess total, it is about a 4 to an 8 hour game if you're good at it. I would say it really should have been probably a $30 or $40 game. So personally, I would say rent this game or wait for it to be on sale or buy it used. Most of the trophies are pretty easy to grasp. Some of them do require that you do a bunch of crap in the game. Much like any other collect everything, which also means scanning everything, which I'm sure there will be guides on PlayStationTrophies.org or .com and those guys that'll eventually post how to do those. But for a general feeling of wanting to be in Jurassic Park, but in the future, I guess, like in space, this definitely is that kind of game. There is one particular area towards the end of the game that's a little bit more suspenseful, and that's where you're trying to do put some batteries into the space station that's crashed, and there's velociraptors that show up because of course there's dinosaurs, so of course we're gonna have velociraptors, and you have no way to defend yourself at all. And so it goes from a first-person VR adventure game to suddenly you're in a survival game because you can't do anything. So all you can do is just lure the velociraptors away from you as you're trying to navigate the environment. Thankfully, they don't chase you within certain areas or boundaries, so it's really more like as soon as you get caught by them, they'll roar, and then it'll just have the Higgs unit come up and say, "Oh, who am I gonna take care of now?" It'll go from like population of this planet of humans from 1 to 0 because the Higgs unit only thinks you're the only human on this planet. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And the game does save periodically at certain checkpoints, so that's where it can get a little annoying in that one area, like I'm telling you about with these velociraptors. But overall, the game's pretty good. Price point, it's a little steep at $60. I just listened to the podcast from these guys at PlayStation or PS I Love You from the Kind of Funny Games guys, and they did mention that their justification for why prices would be high is because VR is pretty new. And so I kind of get that. Because PlayStation VR is new, the technology isn't fully tested, so some games might be a little harder to navigate than others. And then on top of that, price point wise, because it is new technology, they gotta, break the molding to get a return on investment for this stuff. So I kind of get that. And a lot of other games, are $60 too. It just feels like for a game that could have easily been beaten in a day if you really focus on just getting through the objectives, it feels like it really could have been a $40 game or maybe even as low as $30. Again, that's if you're doing general collection of creatures and getting through the story. It feels a bit short when you think about everything, all these little things that are going on in this game. It just feels like all of a sudden they just said, you know what, guys, let's not put any more time into making more content in this game. All right, we could just fast forward to this area and then call it a day. Okay, so it just felt really sudden for me when I beat the game. I was like, oh, that's it? That's the end? I'm not going to go off to do some other stuff? I'm like, oh, okay. And then when the game's over, you load up back up in your pod, and you can continue to explore and recollect everything, because at that point, then it's just a wall of all your achievements that you haven't gotten, and you can work to get those to collect them. But, yeah, that's all I got to say about that. Thank you guys for joining. Of course, as always, hit that like and subscribe button. This is Bato323 from the Godlike Gaming crew, giving you his honest opinion on this particular VR game. Definitely worth a rental, unless, again, you want a Martian meets Jurassic Park type game. So if you can get it because someone gifts it to you, awesome. So that way you don't spend your own money like I did. But honestly, we'll just wait for this game to go on a sale. I don't think it's worth the $60. I think it's easily anywhere between $30 and $40 max. Because, again, I feel the experience was pretty short compared to other games. And that's the thing, at the end of the day, especially for these VR games, there's no really hardcore replayability. It can get a little annoying to invest in a game like this, and then all of a sudden you're just done. So... And again, there's just not a whole lot of content other than trying to do some of the activities for those trophies and everything. So, but most of the trophies seem achievable if you really put in the time. But I just felt like I wanted to play this game and beat it, and just didn't realize just how short the game was. So, just as a fair warning. Alright guys, again, this is Bato323 from Godlike Gaming Crew signing off.